It gives me great pleasure to be present at this big event. It brings back some very precious memories for me from the time that I was trying to serve as the manager and director of our Legion teams. The teamwork and the relationships formed by those team members are something I'll not forget. I cherish the friendships that were formed, and I love it when some of the former players come around and express how much fun they had. After all, baseball is supposed to be fun. I would add just a little bit to some of the things that were said before about the history of American Legion baseball. At one time, during the Great Depression years, the program fell on hard times, but through the efforts of a lot of people that were in a position to help, they managed to make it through those years. And of course, during World War II, it was a struggle because, there's so many of the young men at that time were starting to think about, well, how am I going to serve my country? So, but they did manage to survive all of this, and even though some of the teams, had to survive on shoestring budgets, they did survive and kept going with it. I'm not sure whether this was mentioned before, but of course, now all 50 states, including Canada, has teams that complete. And there, in its inception, countless numbers of Legion graduates have gone on to play college ball and professional ball. 82 have been inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, and they say more than half of the major leaguers played Legion ball. Now, Legion Baseball's alumnus list includes the sport's most notable recognition and recognized names such as Yogi Berra, Ted Williams, Frank Robinson, Bob Feller, and many others. Feller was the first of the Legion alumnus to be elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame, and later he wrote, "Truthfully, I should have given a plaque to the American Legion rather than giving one to me." A farm kid from rural Iowa, Feller got his first ball experience playing with post 313, and he says the playing taught him much about life as it did about baseball. Legion Baseball gave him the chance to form lifetime friendships and learn to deal with athletic competition properly. Frank Robinson led his Oakland, California team to the only back-to-back national championships in the program to this point. Babe Ruth was too old to join the program when Legion Baseball started, but he spent final years of his life promoting the program as its director of operations. Now, going on from this, I've been asked to share just briefly some of the experiences that I have gone through in World War II. Just briefly, I'll not touch on my training except that they Navy came out with a V5 program that included 18 to 20 months of flight instruction. And so I completed that. And after I'd graduated from the program at Corpus Christi, Texas, we were presented our officers' position and also our wings. And already I had, my orders were cut already for Daytona Beach, Florida to fly the F-6F Hellcat fighter. From there we went to the Great Lakes Naval Air Station to check out and carrier landings, and then on to San Diego to ship out for over to Oahu. And there I went aboard a troop transport. I had been assigned to Air Group 83, which had trained in the east coast of the United States, and they sent them to Maui to finish their training. And when I reported over there, I found out that they were through with their training and they were headed for combat the next day. So I entered combat in the Carolina Islands at Ulithi Harbor, not knowing any of the guys arriving, not having flown with them. So that was kind of an uptight situation. And I'm going to touch just very briefly on two of the things that I got into as far as combat. And the first one happened probably not over 2 weeks, I guess, after I had joined the air group. Wonder 5 Division, the 4 divisions that I flew with, we had been under attack by the Japanese. They were called kamikazes, which actually, if you want to put a name to it, it's probably more like a suicide group. They were trained to take off an airplane and fly to their target and manually fly the bomb-loaded planes into ships or any other targets that they were assigned. So they thought that some of those planes were coming from a small airport on an island by the name of Kikishima. And so they sent our Division 105 over there to tear that place up, but there were no airborne aircraft in the air, so that we proceeded to destroy what few were on the ground and hit their hangars and even tore up some of their landing tarmac so that they'd have trouble, using it. And then we decided it was time to get back to the ship before we ran out of gasoline in our Hellcats. And so we were heading back probably not over 1,800 feet off the water, and all of a sudden I spotted 2 Japanese Val dive bombers. They were real low on the water and they were coming on a converging course to us. I didn't have time to do anything else except push the nose of the plane down, put my sight on the trajectory of the dive bomber, and I squeezed the trigger, and I saw the pilot slump forward and they crashed into the ocean. So the second one, I made a turnover then and to see what happened to it, and it was headed to this airfield that we had just destroyed. And so I gave the Hellcat full throttle, and that 2,000 horsepower engine really responded well. And I caught up with it, and just as I was ready to pull the trigger, I heard my division leader shouting at me over the radio. He said, "Don, get out of there, they're shooting at you from the shore battery." But I squeezed the trigger anyway, and that one blew up. And so then I made a lot of evasive action to keep them from shooting me down. And I wondered, well, why didn't the other three guys jump onto that second one? Well, I found out there were two other Validai bombers, plus a twin-engine plane that I didn't see. And so the division leader shot down one of those, the section leader got one, and the last man in the division, they usually referred to him usually as Tail End Charlie. He got the twin engine one, so all four of us had our first air-to-air victories that day. All the way through then the month of March and April, they were harassing our fleet just terribly. In fact, we never had any of our ships sunk, but we had several of the carriers get damaged. In fact, we had two of the big carriers that were really damaged badly, to the point that you almost think that they were going to sink, but they managed to get the fires put out and managed to get them back to Pearl Harbor so they could be reconstructed. And then we were hitting the island of Okinawa, which was supposed to be the next island that would be invaded by our troops. And so we helped with the invasion. That was on April the 1st, which happened to be Easter Sunday. And we, fighter pilots, were sent over there to help with napalm bombs, which is a firebomb. And so we helped to burn the scorch of the beach and while the landing craft were approaching. And I can't give you any figures, but I don't think that the invasion of Okinawa was all that terrible as far as casualties are concerned, because the Japanese had either guessed right or they had obtained some idea of when the invasion was going to happen, so they had pulled a lot of their forces back from the beaches into the mountainous, hilly areas. And of course, then the war was entirely different. It was terrible. We did do quite a bit of supporting our ground troops and our Marines as they fought in those mountainous areas. But then about 2 weeks after the invasion, we were sent over to fly combat air patrol over some picket destroyers that had been placed between the island of Kyushu and the island of Okinawa. And when we got over there, the raid had already started. There were Japanese planes everywhere. They know now that there were over 300 in that raid. And of course, all the fighters from the Essex, which would have been about 80 fighter planes, and then the fighters from another carrier, and I can't tell you what carrier that was. But anyway, we tried to defend it then, and ended up then 250 Japanese planes were destroyed that day, which kind of diminished their air force to almost nothing at that point. Well, when we got there, flying wing on my division leader, we saw two of these float planes that were loaded with explosives heading for one of the destroyers. We were probably at 1,200 feet and they were right low in the water, and so we had to dive to get to them, and we've found out that they are flying so slow that we overshot the first one. Neither one of us got a chance at it. But I shot down the second one. Then the division leader got on the radio, and he said to us, other three guys, said, "Guys, split up and get all these rascals that you can." And so that's one of the times that we split up and fought individually. And when it was all said and done, by our division of 4 guys had shot down 17 planes. And each one of the 4 of us were lucky enough to get 5 or more, which then qualifies you as an ace pilot. So I just thought I'd share a little bit about this so you young people can understand a little bit about what war is all about. And just to end, then I would like, in short, you young people, someday when you are considered Legion Ball graduates, I hope you'll be proud contributors throughout our society. We all look forward to each of you young men to be included among those graduates by your sportsmanship, your active citizenship, and I say to you, good baseball this week and much good fortune in your future. Thank you.